This is a video I'm going to do on a engine change on a Toro 724, 7 horsepower, 24-inch wide snowblower from about the mid 80s. It's a H70 model engine, a Tecumseh. That's what's coming out, and we're going to put in the Harbor Freight engine pretty soon. So the issue with this was that the pull starter was broken, and I tried to actually start it with a wrench, and instead of starting with a wrench, I sheared the nut off. So it was pretty stupid, but the engine wasn't brand new anyway, and it should be a lot easier to start and not have the carburetor issues I had with this one. I've been through a couple gasket changes and just never really ran really well. So we're going to get started by removing the belts in the front here. I've already removed the auger drive belt. It's pretty easy because all the tension comes from the auger drive engage, and the drive belt looks like it has kind of a fixed tension that you set with that nut down in there. I don't know if that can be seen too easily. So we're going to loosen that up and get that belt off, and then we're going to do some measurements. And I'm going to have to take this off anyway to reuse, so I might as well take it all the way off right now. That out of the way. See if we can't walk this off. Doesn't look like it wants to do from that end. Make this easier if I can spin the engine over. So take out the spark plug real quick. Okay, so now that we can turn the engine over a little easier. It's a little easier to walk this belt off. Alright, see how hard it is to get the shaft off this. Okay, so I have my pulley puller on, but first thing before we start pulling things apart is we want to take some measurements, because these engines they're close to universal, but they're not exactly universal. So once we have the new engine in place, or getting it ready to be in place, we're going to want to put it so this pulley ends up right where it was before, so that we can get good tension in the belts and they're not misaligned. This will also help us maybe make some plans as to how we're going to fit the new engine, which is actually a tiny bit smaller if you go with the 212cc Predator engine that they sell. So anyway, so we're going to base the measurements that we make off of the nuts that are around the side. And move the tripod there. These nuts right here are still going to be there once we take the engine off. So that's the mounting base plate for the engine, and then we have the shaft there that we're going to need to take some measurements for. We're going to want to figure out how high the shaft is up off of this plate. I think it's going to be the same for the Predator engine, so that's good. That's a little bit harder to adapt to. We're going to have the width, the mounting holes there, and so we're going to take some measurements. So when to get the pulley off, you want to remove those two, or back off those two hex nuts a little bit, and then it should be able to slide off. I had to use a puller to help get mine off because it was kind of stuck, and I actually forgot to back these off that much. So anyway, now that we have the pulley off, it's time to remove the throttle connection and the kill switch connection, and hopefully we'll be able to find a spot to reuse those on the Predator engine. Alright, so now we're going to pull off the shroud so we can get to the throttle cable. now we can remove the throttle cable, NITS bracket here, so we can undo that. Now we have the electrical connection at the bottom there. Looks like this one establishes the ground and this one must be the kill switch. So we're gonna, one thing I forgot to measure and mention that I measured is the shaft size. So the shaft size for this Tecumseh engine is 1 inch. So the pulley inside diameter is 1 inch. The engine I'm using is going to be 3/4 inches. So that means that we're going to need to get a shaft sleeve to go around that 3/4 inch to mate with this pulley at a 1 inch inner diameter. So we'll have to order that too. You can get, I've seen those on eBay and Amazon for not too much, and I think you can make your own too. Okay, so we have the new engine, the 212cc engine, and I placed it on here just on the mounting plate. Nothing there. We're gonna locate the PTO shaft where we need it to be. Then we're going to pick where our engine mounts are, and then based on that we'll maybe drill some more holes if we need to in that mounting plate to mount the engine. Alright, now I'm going to hammer on the old shaft here, or the old pulley, I mean to say. I'm doing my best to keep this from hammering on hitting the bearing, output bearing, by holding it. So remember that we have to place the end of this pulley 4.5 inches from this bolt over here and 2.5 inches in from that bolt. So let's just see roughly where we are on the vertical height. Vertical height, we look pretty good. 4.25, and we're just right about there. Now the distance, 4.25 from that edge to this hole on the side. And we're just about there too, and you can actually see how it lines up. So this is great. So it looks like, at least on this side, we probably won't need to drill any holes. On this other side here, we might not either. So this might be the same. Here lies a problem. So the bolts that we originally had, they're pretty short compared to the base plate on the bottom of this engine, which is pretty thick. Okay, so that said, what we're going to do, we're going to see what we have that fits these. So I've checked, and I can get some long bolts that I had. Don't know if you can see that. But some long bolts I had fit all the way through into the old mounting plate, so it doesn't look like I'm going to have to do any. Doesn't look like I'm going to have to do any changes of the mounting plate. We're going to take and we're going to tighten up the pulley so it stays in position now. Okay, now we're going to replace the pulleys. So we got our belts on, and you'll notice that unlike the original engine that had an oil change point port way out here, this one doesn't. So what I recommend is some sort of extension. So I got this online. You can probably make one, but again, some strange size fitting. This is like a 10 millimeter, so it's a little tough to find tube sizes like that. This is just an extension tube. You leave it attached most of the time. Then when you want to do an oil change, you just take that off, and then you spin this off like this. So, so anyway, we'll go ahead and attach that. We'll fill it with oil, fill it with gas, start up, make sure it works. Then we'll talk about the kill switch here. Alright, so first start. Okay, so one of the things we're going to do to wire in this kill switch is we have something called a quick splice. So I had to extend extend the kill switch, one side of the kill switch from the Toro, using just one of these crimpable links here. You can see in red. That goop is dielectric grease, so that's going to help keep some of the moisture out of that connection, keep it a little bit better. It's kind of like Vaseline, but you can get it from an auto parts store. I really recommend doing that, especially considering what this thing's going to see. And we're going to use a quick splice to the little end here to jump onto the low oil shutoff, because if I screw this up, then I can replace that a little bit easier than the kill switch. Okay, so now we've spliced in our kill switch to the low oil return line. Let's just do a quick check to see if the levers in the front here will shut it off. Yep, so seems like that is working just fine. So now we want to see about getting the throttle connected. So this is optional. I typically run at full throttle all the time when I'm snow blowing, but hey, it looks like they've actually made this not so hard to do. So you can see I've threaded the old throttle cable in to that bracket, and now it does operate the throttle. It's a little stiff. That might be just what we have with this different mechanism here. So that should work. You can put the air filter back on. Some people run these without air filters, meaning snow blowers in general, but I'm going to wait to do that unless I really have a problem. There's one last thing that we need to do, or some people like to do. I think I'm going to do it, is to rejet the carburetor, and that's not as scary as it sounds. In fact, there's directions for this in the manual about how to go to a leaner jet or a smaller jet for high altitude. You'll do the same, just going to a larger jet. There we go. We have the shroud back on. So we've put together the bigger, larger jet for cold temperature. Check the kill switch. Added the quick drain plug. And tighten down, check the tightness on all of the engine mounts there, make sure that they're still good. So now we're done. We have ourselves a repowered snowblower. Thanks for watching.